In the Queen of Heaven, this happened many times and even frequently. For though she was enraptured during many of the beatific visions, which in ordinary mortals is always required, and also during her intellectual and imaginary visions, yet even while she was in the full use of her senses, she received higher revelations and intelligences than all the saints and prophets in their greatest ecstasies. Nor in any wise did her exterior senses disturb her imaginary visions. For the great heart of Mary, so full of wisdom, was not embarrassed by the sentiments of admiration and love which are wont to take away the sensible activities of the other saints and prophets. This was true of her corporeal visions, as is evident from the annunciation of the message by the Archangel Gabriel, and although the Evangelist gives no other instance in the course of her most holy life, prudent and Catholic judgment cannot doubt that they did happen at other times, for the Queen of the Heavens and of the angels was to be served by her vassals, as we shall relate later on, number 758, when we describe the continuous service of her angelic guard and of other angels appearing in corporeal and visible form. It happened also in another way, as we shall see in the following chapter. Other souls must be very circumspect and careful in regard to these corporeal visions, since they are subject to dangerous deceptions and illusions coming from the ancient serpent. Those who never seek them avoid a great part of this danger. If the soul is free from such desire and from other disorderly affections, and if then any corporeal or imaginary visions should happen, it must be very cautious before performing and executing that which is enjoined by those visions. For it is a very bad sign and a savoring of the devil's influence if, without any deliberation or counsel, it immediately believes and obeys, since the good angels, who are our teachers in matters of obedience, truth, prudence, and holiness, do not urge such a course of action. There are also other indications and signs generally accompanying the causes and the effects of such visions, which will securely guide souls as to their truthfulness or their falsity. But I will not enter into these matters in order not to be led away from my purpose, and besides, I submit myself in these things to the doctors and teachers of the spiritual life. Instruction of the Queen of Heaven. My daughter, in the enlightenment which thou hast received in this chapter, thou hast a certain rule of action in regard to the visions and revelations of the Lord, and it inculcates two precautions. The one consists in thy subjecting these relations to the examination and the judgment of thy confessors and superiors, asking the Most High with a lively faith that he give them light to understand his divine will and truth to instruct thee fully therein. The other consists in questioning thy own heart and observing the effects of these revelations and visions prudently, trying to assure thyself against any error. For the divine influence which accompanies them will urge and draw thee on, inflaming thy heart to chaste love and reverence of God, to acknowledgement of thy littleness, to abhorrence of the earthly vanities, to desire of being despised by creatures, to joyful suffering, to love of the cross, and an earnest and generous acceptation of it. It will move thee to seek the last place, to love those that persecute thee, to fear and abhor sin, even the slightest, to aspire to the purest, the most perfect and refined in virtue, and to deny thyself thy own inclinations, and to unite thyself to the highest and truest good. When he thus teaches thee the most holy and perfect things of the Christian law, and excites thee to imitate him and me, then thou wilt have infallible signs of divine truth revealed to thee by the Most High in these visions. And in order that thou, dearest, mayest execute this doctrine, which thou hast received through the kindness of the Most High, do not ever forget it, and do not lose sight of the blessing of having been instructed by him in these things with so much loving caresses. Renounce all human esteem and consolation, all the delight and pleasure of the world. All that thy earthly inclinations demand, refuse to thyself, although it may be small and licit in itself. Turn thy back on all sensible things, seeking only to love and to suffer. This is the science and divine philosophy taught thee by the visits of the Most High, and in it thou wilt feel the force of the divine fire, which should never through thy fault and thy negligence be allowed to become extinguished in thy bosom. Be alert, dilate thy heart, gird thyself with fortitude, in order to be commissioned with great undertakings, and be able to accomplish them. Be constant in thy faith regarding these admonitions, believing in them, esteeming them, and writing them in thy soul with the humble and loving affection of thy heart, as being sent in faithful solicitude by thy spouse and transmitted to thee by me, thy teacher and mistress.